The topic was picked by our host. And I think the kitchen was picked by our hostess. It's a really big kitchen. You probably like the house, right? Yeah, it's a nice big kitchen. Big kitchen. It's half the room. But that's the way it was made, right? You didn't order it. It was made like that. You just, it's a big kitchen. Now, I'm stalling for time. I have to hook this thing up. There was a confusion the other day that didn't look like Krishna's arrangement, but it looks like it was Krishna's arrangement. Without going into what the confusion was. This was supposed to be another evening. Something else happened instead of this, but because this was meant to be for this evening. Mantra's smiling. So, perhaps some of you have had some difficult times, or know someone that has had some difficult times. Certainly if you read in the paper, you find out many people that have difficult times. And so that's the topic, gratitude during difficult times. So up in the upper right side, you know what that one is. And on the upper left side, you know what that one is. That's in the Gulf of Mexico, some tropical storm developing and smashing the other people in Texas and wherever else it hits. Another image of the COVID picture. So the sometimes it looks like innocent people are being put through difficult times. And that was one of the when asked to present this one time, somebody specifically wanted to get some idea about why are people suffering in mass? Large-scale, difficult times. And this is a nice graphic. The finger, that's the person who looks like they're going through a difficult time. And there are others that are, one's praying and the other's like wondering, are they going to make it through? So, it's not a... Can't see? Oh. You see the screen? It's not showing. Do the magic. Say the magic mantra. Oh, thanks for letting me know you couldn't see. I'm describing what you can't see. Like, what's that? We'll go back. You can see now? It's my... Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay, there we go. There we go. So the upper right screen is the COVID-19 virus, and the upper left, that's a hurricane heading through the Gulf of Mexico to smash some of those southern states. And the lower left, it's just a chart of another COVID chart. So then the next is gratitude during difficult times. It's hard to remain grateful when you're passing through difficult times, or you know others that are passing through difficult times, and to maintain gratitude in your heart. It's an exceptional person that can do that. And then this other subtitle is, why are people suffering in mass? Because hurricanes and COVID-19 and other things. Shankadari, please send me a little note to remind me to send you, there's a list of calamities that have happened for past 100 years or so, and the numbers of people that have been killed during those different calamities, died during those calamities. So it's not a new thing. There's current one that's affecting the world. But at other times, there's other things. And it seems like it's innocent people. So why? And that's the why. But, how do you maintain gratitude? And it's not easy. It's certainly not easy. Probably because there's many persons in the room from Indian background. You probably know a number of people who in India died of COVID-19, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's hard to bear. And not just that, there's multiple things. So it's not too satisfying, but nonetheless it is a fact that with the exception of those that are engaged in Krishna's devotional service, there are very few percentage-wise of people that are, firmly situated in devotional practices in the world. So the laws of karma are acting. This is just a quick little graph. The karma timeline. There's a timeline, periods of time. And those circles mark, spans of time over which karma something is done, and good and bad karma both. It's not instant karma, in other words. So here's a little graphic. Something may be from a previous time and it fructifies in this time. It may be in the next lifetime. It may be over multiple lifetimes. But something in the background is the cause of misfortune, as well as something in the background is the cause of good fortune. And most lives are made of a combination of both. Sadasad yoni janmasu. So, difficult times come because of something, a cause. At least, other than in the sphere of devotional service. So that's one explanation. Even innocent people, apparently. Here's a conventional sense of what gratitude is. Conventional sense. A readiness to show appreciation for and to return kindness. Gratitude. You receive something and you show or do something in return for the kindness that's received. That's a conventional explanation or sense of gratitude, because that's our topic, is maintaining gratitude even when there's difficult times. There's a nice scriptural definition, and it's the Sanskrit word is krita, which can have different meanings, but one of them is favor. And krita gya is to acknowledge that some favor has been done, or feeling grateful for something received. And a grateful person is one who acknowledges others who have done service. It's right from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Here's the text. Kritagyasyad abhigyoya krita sevadi karmana. Good, that's Rupa Goswami. Definition of gratitude, or feeling grateful. Grateful person is one who acknowledges others who have done service. Now, look carefully at the Sanskrit, because ungrateful is very similar. Sounds very similar. Krita gya and krita gha. Ungrateful. And a nice example, there's some scriptural examples of gratitude. It's taught in the Ramayana in relation to, what's the name of that mountain that surfaced from the bottom of the ocean? Mainaka. So the circumstance for Mainaka appearing had two acknowledgments of something that was previously done. And one of the somethings that was previously done, so this is the translation of the Ramayana text. One should acknowledge a favor and try to pay it back. This is Sanatan Dharma. So within this nice story of Hanuman crossing the ocean, we're getting a lesson in Sanatan Dharma. And that lesson is one should acknowledge a favor and try to pay it back. So that's Mainaka saying this, and there's two events that led to this. One of the events was as Hanuman was crossing the ocean personified wanted to acknowledge a favor that had been done by an ancestor of Lord Ramachandra. An ancestor of Lord Ramachandra was named Sagara. And Sagara did two things. One is the sons of Sagara, in searching for the missing horse, they dug up the earth and they expanded the field of the ocean. So the ocean became larger. And then there was another circumstance where the ocean was in danger because Agastya had become angry and he was drying up the ocean. And so Sagara filled up the ocean again. So the ocean personified was indebted to Sagara, who was an ancestor of Ram. He wanted to express gratitude to Ram, and he knew that Hanuman was on his behalf. So the ocean personified, or the ocean god, the god of the sea, approached Mainaka. And Mainaka was very happy to be approached to do some service because, according to this description, Mainaka was once saved by Vayu, because Indra, at one point in time, was throwing thunderbolts at mountains. Because according to Ramayana, there was a time when mountains had wings. And mountains with wings could fly. And Indra didn't like that, so he was chopping their wings with thunderbolts. And Vayu came to rescue Mainaka and placed him within the ocean. And so Mainaka was very happy. And it's he who said this. One should acknowledge a favor and try to pay it back. This is Sanatan Dharma. So, gratitude. Difficult times doesn't take away gratitude for a favor received or some service rendered and wanting to express that in some form or another. Here's another example of the ingratitude kind. Maybe you don't recognize that fellow, but that's Sugriva. He's got a crown. And Sugriva had received a favor of Ram, or more than a favor. He had regained his kingdom and his wife, and so he was indebted to Ram. But it was decided that the 4 months of the rainy season would pass before they would search for Sita. And when the 4 months of the rainy season were over, he was still not doing anything to search for Sita. And so Hanuman had to go to him and say, don't be ungrateful. And you should fulfill your promise. And Ram may become angry, and if he gets angry, you're in big trouble. So you better make arrangements as soon as possible. So there's a painting of Lakshmana trying to appease Ram, feeling very sorry at the loss of Sita, and also sorry that Sugriva is going against his word and is being ungrateful. So Lakshmana speaks the following verse, quoting Brahma, who became angry upon seeing an ungrateful person. Brahma said, atonements have been prescribed as beneficial for one who kills a Brahmin, who drinks liquor, or who commits theft, and one who violates a sacred vow, but not for one who is ungrateful. So gratitude is a virtue, and ungrateful is something you can't even atone for. Look at the Sanskrit, brahmagne, killing a brahmana, and drinking liquor, surape, chore, the stealing, the breaking of a great vow, committing theft. So, but not for one who is nasti nishkriti. Kritagye, nasti kritagye. There isn't an atonement process for being ungrateful. So gratitude is important. It's a foundational principle of Sanatana Dharma. Prabhupada spoke, gratitude is to see beyond the immediate circumstances that come upon us. So there's something behind what comes upon us. Or if you think that the art is beautiful, that's this sunset. If you think the art is beautiful, you should see the artist. This is just the spark of his beauty. Now I want to, I hope the technology cooperates. There's a really nice expression of Srila Prabhupada expressing his gratitude to Bhaktisiddhanta. And he starts to choke up and can't continue speaking, just speaking about what he had received from Bhaktisiddhanta. Let's see if it works. No, it's not working.
I began attached to this volume of activity. By the grace of Krishna, Krishna says, the Sahona Migrindami, Hriseta Dhanam Sani. But if somebody wants to be actually devotee of Krishna, at the same time keeps his material attachment, then Krishna's business is, he takes away everything material, so that same person he becomes, I'm going to say, dependent on Krishna. So that actually happened to my life. I was obliged to come to this movement, to take up this very seriously. And I was dreaming that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is calling me, please come out with me. So I was sometimes horrified. What is this? I have to give up my family life. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is calling me. I have to take sannyas. Oh, I was horrified. But I saw several times calling me. So anyway, it is by his grace I was forced to give up my family life and so-called business life. And he brought me somewhere or other in preaching his gospel. So, this is a memorable day, what he deserved. I am trying little bit, and you are all helping me. So I have to thank you more. You are actually representative of my Guru Maharaj. Because you are helping me in executing the order of my Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much.
We're honoring the 125th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's appearance, and so there's lots of activity going on all around the ISKCON world of remembering Prabhupada and appreciating. And any effort you make diving into it, of course, the glorious way in which he did what he did is easy to describe. The hardship is also astounding. How he endured what he endured. I remember hearing from Satsrup Maharaj, many years ago, Prabhupada saying to the devotees, the 26 Second Avenue devotees, if you had to endure what I had to endure when I came to your country, you would have died. You wouldn't have been able to live. Very, very extreme circumstance, but he had a service, and he was carrying on the service to his capacity. Yet feeling very grateful throughout all of that for having some instruction, some service, being called upon to do what he was thinking previously was horrible and terrified, but carrying forward with great vigor and success. Now, the topic is gratitude during difficult times, and there are more common responses than this one, or these, when there's difficult times. So here's some nice images. Sometimes it's like, oh no. Or sometimes it's just fear. Or sometimes it's uncertainty. I searched for an image online for uncertainty, and I like this one. Look at what's on the back of that little boy's backpack. The facial expression on the back of the backpack, and he's walking through a forest. Who knows what's out there, and there's a little light, and there's lots of shadow, and this was prepared at a time when COVID was peaking. And I don't know if you recall, I recall, you didn't know what's next. What's going to happen? What's going to strike where and when? And is life going to become normal again, or what's it going to be like? So there are stages of life, aside from the COVID times, that are filled with uncertainty. And how are you to remain grateful when nothing is certain or everything is uncertain? That's a challenge. And the challenge is made even greater because of the atmosphere in which we live. The world in which we live, according to what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, by design, it's a place of misery. And it's temporary. Dukkha and ashashvata. Miserable and temporary. And it's not by accident, it's by design like that. And in the Bhagavatam, Krishna, or it is also stated, padam yadvi padam. There's calamity at every step. So now we're supposed to be grateful while you're passing through a field that there's calamity at every step. And there's going to be misery, and everything that looks all right is also temporary. It's just the nature of the place. Then, according to the Bhagavatam teachings, not to make the picture brighter, but realistic, the greatest misfortune is missing the opportunity of the human form of life and maintaining attachments to that which is limited and temporary. When the living entity turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is effected by the potent evolution called Maya. So over there on the left of that illustration is somebody going to, it looks like a nice place, sunlight and mountains and nice stream. And over on the right side is nighttime, or there's death. The person with that big saber or sword is death personified. But the whole situation is illusion, and when faced with that situation of illusion, it's perplexing. Okay, so the picture is clear of the uncertainty and the complexity and bewilderment and fearfulness because of the circumstances. Now, what to do? And how to remain fixed in a position of gratitude. One of the teachings, one of the core teachings that we have is this one. It comes from Brahma's prayers to Krishna, Namanta Eva. It's offering obeisances to the personality of Godhead because, after all, we're dependent. And whatever circumstance comes our way, limited and temporary, or filled with misery and temporary, it's coming our way because of something. We're in the material circumstance because of turning our back on Krishna, and so here we are, in a place that is what it is. Lord Brahma's prayer speaks like this. You know the verse? Those who know the verse can say it with me. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukhaditam bhavadiyavartam stane satakshratikatam tanavan manobhir ye prayaso jitajito pyasitais trilokyam. It's kind of color-coded there. So jivanti is very simple. It just means live. Those who, even while remaining in their established social positions, stane statak, remain in your social position. Throw away the process of speculative knowledge, jnane prayasa udapasya, and with their body, mind, and words offer respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, Shruti Gatam, dedicating their lives to these topics, Bhavadiyavartam, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, San Mukhaditam, certainly conquer your lordship. Yea, prayaso ajita, although you are otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds. So that's our place of shelter in the midst of uncertainty and perplexity and etc. Hard times, difficult times. There is a place of shelter. And this verse is a very important verse. It's indicating what our place of shelter is and how to achieve it. When that kind, because I'll share with you, in the past, although it's been the waning phases of the COVID period, I've been visiting homes, not getting into airplanes until just a couple recently, but lots of people expressing, grief over something. Loss of a friend or a relative or somebody or something. And not only death, but other circumstances that are very troubling. So I've run into a lot of it. And, it gets right in the middle of a discussion like this, it can get really sensitive and emotional. So what to do? And, while being sympathetic or empathetic with what they're going through, there is a place of shelter. And when one has that sense of shelter, then you feel, even in the midst of difficult times, you feel some protection, some safety, and secure. Not the worldly things are not secure, but the otherworldly things are secure. And one who has shelter there, and our main access is through this Bhagavad Dharma process of hearing and chanting. So it's been difficult. We haven't been able to get together like this. I remember when we first started doing this, not everybody's wearing masks, but it used to be we could have like a handful of people with masks. And that, everybody else was with, somewhere out there in camera land. But now we're able to get together a little bit. who knows what's going to happen next? There is that uncertainty of the variants and all that stuff. But when is there a time where there's no uncertainty? And so the access to taking shelter, Shruti Gatam, from what's vibrated by Krishna and by those who are his pure devotees, Samukaritam, that's accessible. Our founder Acharya made that abundantly available. Just a little sharing because it just happened today. There's China is a difficult place without going into it too much. For those who are practicing Hare Krishna devotees, and to make association available to the already existing Hare Krishna devotees, there's a lot of uncertainty, to say the least. They don't know who's listening to their classes, and sometimes classes just get shut down right in the middle of the classes, even the virtual ones, without all the stuff that goes on. So, in face of, and there's consequences if certain invisible lines are crossed, etc. But still, that's the place of shelter. And those who take that place of shelter feel protection. There's so many different individual stories, but collectively, there's a place of shelter, and it's real, and it's palpable. And having that place of shelter is a cause of gratitude. Now, here's another image I like. There's an opportunity, a natural opportunity for experiencing spiritual happiness or spiritual joy that's within. It may not be in the circumstance. I selected this image because it looks pretty bleak. I don't know where it is, but it's, dark and barren and not lovely. Now, it's somewhere in the middle there's this flower. And whether somebody just stuck it there or it's actually a growing flower in the crack in the sidewalk or something. But there's opportunity for spiritual joy even in the midst of duality. And those that know how to access that, and through sadhu sangha they get some association and support to support that, gradually awakening is the happiness that's within. That's our bhakti process. It's the yoga process in general. But there is a natural happiness within. That's strength. And when that strength and that experience comes, it's called in Bhagavad Gita the Brahmabhuta stage. It's where we realize who we are and, leaving aside who we aren't. And the Brahmabhuta stage has a spiritual joy. Brahmabhuta, what's the next word? Your son, I'm asking him. Brahmabhuta? Prasanatma. Very good. You know what prasanatma means? You know what atma means? Soul. And prasana means happiness of the soul, or joy. Prasanatma. In that stage is joy that's within, prasanatma. Then, another quiz question. Na sochati, na kangsati. Neither hankering nor lamenting. The beginning part of Bhagavad Gita, in the beginning part of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna advises Arjuna to tolerate duality. And duality has sometimes happiness and sometimes distress. So, sochati, nakangsati. Hankering and lamenting. Hankering. In that stage of Brahmabhuta, there isn't hankering and lamenting. Why? Because there's a joy within. I don't need something. If something is there, fine. It's not there, fine. If it's there, fine. We use it in Krishna service. It's not there. We may do like what Prabhupada did when he came to America. Imagine He lived in a place where there wasn't even water. There was no toilet. There was no place to shower. He's a Brahmin sannyasi from Vrindavan. And he comes to a place where he's living in an office room with no... So at a certain o'clock in the morning, he went down the street in the middle of the winter with his coat on and took a bath. Well, not too early because didn't want to wake up Dr. Mishra. So when Dr. Mishra was up, 7 o'clock or something, take his bath, put on his tilak, cook in the kitchen, offer to Krishna, feed Dr. Mishra. I mean, I don't know if I would be, how I would feel about that situation, or any one of us. Stay in a place for who knows how long, where you can't even take a bath. Or wash your face. There's no running water. You can brush your teeth. There's no running water. What was that like? In the middle of the winter. And he's used to India. And he's, 70 plus years old. Because there's a mission. And there's joy in fulfilling the mission. Anyway, many, many, many hardships. But in the midst of the duality, Brahmabhuta Pasanatma Nasochati Nakangsati, those are two qualities when there's spiritual joy within. And Samak Sarveshu Bhuteshu, seeing other living entities with equanimity. And then pure devotional service begins. So we have a way to go, right? For pure devotional service to begin, because those are qualifications. Now, but that's how to access gratitude even in the midst of duality or hardship or difficult times. There has to be some access within. And here's our last slide. It's a nice little short presentation. There's a similar image to what you saw, that uncertainty image. This is a lady going through some forest where there's light and there's shadows and there's trees, and it looks like a similar uncertainty path that she's walking on. But there is some light, and for us, that light in the midst of all of this is the Hare Krishna mantra. And of course, following the Hare Krishna mantra comes being with devotees who are also involved in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and hearing the message of devotion given abundantly by our founder Acharya, and trying to live it and trying to give it. And in the midst of that uncertainty and difficult times, the world of duality that we live in, moving forward, and feeling like Prabhupada was expressing in that nice little recording, feeling overwhelmed with gratitude to his spiritual master for sending some resources to help him fulfill that difficult mission that was given to him. So there's the topic, gratitude. Here's the opening slide. Gratitude during difficult times. So let's see if there's some thoughts you'd like to share on this, or stir the topic a little bit. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. So in the initial part of the slide, you showed that the gratitude means whatever favors you get, you should pay them back. So let's say if you get this much of favor and that turns into this much of benefit to you for whatever reasons. So in what proportion should it be paid back? Because if it's paid back in the same proportion, seems not enough.
Ah, that's a nice thought. Well, say it's even further. How can it ever come to the point that you pay back adequately? Okay, that's it. Business done.
Huh.
It's a gratitude. Once gratitude is in the heart, it doesn't stop. That's enough. Turn the valve off. A gesture of expressing gratitude can be very, very simple. It may be not commensurate with what one has received. But a gesture showing, expressing, displaying that gratitude, it's likely to flow again and again. And so the person on the other side who has given something and is being shown gratitude, that's heartwarming. So they're not calculating, you didn't pay me back enough. It's a loving exchange. A phrase that I didn't read it anywhere, it's become a phrase that I use all the time. Gratitude is the seed of love. So when is love enough? When is gratitude enough? It's never enough. But an expression of gratitude, or in a more mature stage, an expression of love, is itself satisfying for both parties, the giving and the receiving party. Largely it has to do, this is a separate point, largely gratitude has to do with people, with relationships between people. And ultimately behind everything in this world, is that phrase that Prabhupada expressed, Krishna's there. He's the unseen giver, but the air that one breathes, we just take it for granted. We're not feeling grateful for the air that we breathe. Anyway, I'm over answering your question. It's never enough, is the answer. As relationships grow, then you express some gratitude to someone who has, done something, some kindness, and likely that's going to stir something inside them, and they'll do more kindness. So then it doesn't stop. You're more indebted and more. It's a relationship, a dynamic relationship of love. Gratitude is the seed. Okay, so
even in the material sense, there are people, for example, at work or friends which are not devotees. If they do you a favor, seems like we should give them more than what we got.
Yeah.
So it's just across the board, not just.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know if it's a true story or not a true story, but I read something early in the pandemic era that was on this gratitude topic. COVID hit elderly people first, or quickest. And in Italy, there's lots of old people. So there was like a lot of older people in hospitals in Italy with COVID infection. So that the story that I read, true or not, I don't know. An elderly man overcame and released from the hospital from COVID infection. And then the doctor handed him a bill for the use of a ventilator. And he started crying. And the doctor said, well, why? It's not that expensive, and you should be able to handle this. Is it okay? I said, okay. The man was crying and crying. And he said, no, I can handle the bill, but because the ventilator was providing me with air to breathe when I couldn't breathe, how am I going to pay back for all the air that I received in the course of my 90 years of life? How am I going to pay that back? Things that we just take for granted. But I've had the experience in the course of this lifetime where my ability to breathe was taken away. Or, it was like short breath, and it was like, it was scary. And when that situation got resolved, it's like, okay, business as usual again. But things we take for granted, and when you lose those things you take for granted, it's like, wow. So yeah, it takes some maturity to be able to acknowledge kindnesses that are extended. And it can just be conventional kindnesses. But acknowledging them and, having a feeling of gratitude and expressing it in one way or another. I have a lot to say on this topic. Keep asking questions, I'll say some more. Yes, in the back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thanks for sharing the story where Prabhupada did not have those access to those resources, and yet he was, and how you connected that with Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma. So it seems that for great souls, the journey itself is joyful,
Yeah.
and the destination as well. But for people on the material platform, the joy comes when the mission is materialized or when the mission is successful. But the journey towards that mission is an austerity. It's sometimes torturous. So how do we rise above that platform where the journey in itself we can connect and we can have that shelter?
Yeah, let me just clarify your question. You're asking for you yourself, or you're asking for how do you comfort somebody that's going through that challenge, that,
Yeah,
for yourself?
how do we rise above that?
Well, a short answer. There's no substitute for purity. That's another phrase I've learned. Without purity, you won't. And with purity, it's natural. It's the healthy as opposed to the unhealthy. So how do you get healthy? Well, how did that purity of heart come? And it's it's bhakti. Anukulyena. You place Krishna first. And Krishna, the intention of life is, Anukul means the intention is Krishna should be pleased. He's the object. Krishna Anu Shilana. That's how. And we're not there yet. And so since we're not there yet, we go through this other stuff. But your question was how to get there. It's bhakti. And bhakti is nourished by sadhu sangha and properly applying, the process of bhakti in life. And there's obstacles. Like, once the pinch is off, complacency. Like just take this example of not being able to breathe properly or normally. When you can't breathe, it's very fearful. And then when you can breathe, it's business as usual, complacency. So back to the question, how to maintain gratitude at all times. Don't take things for granted. Acknowledge and feel in acknowledging the sense of gratitude as natural. And that's what I'm trying to convey here through this little short presentation. That's the essence of Sanatana Dharma, according to Ramayana. And we're not there yet. We're sometimes not, often not, when it's convenient. Anyway, we're in that stage. So how to get to it? By consistent practice and application of the principle of placing Krishna at the center. Yeah. Anyone else? Over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I wanted to just add something to this topic that I was recently reading. I'm a nurse, and
Just a second. Is this sound on? Was the light on? Okay. Speak a little louder, like a little closer to the microphone.
sure. I was reading about how
You're a nurse
meditate. Yeah.
by profession.
Yes.
So you see people in pain.
Pain and COVID situation. And so I was reading that how being grateful or meditating on gratefulness, or I think thinking of things that I can be grateful for, how it can make some structural changes to the brain and actually removes negative emotions, anxiety,
Fantastic.
depression, and they're encouraging that for patients while they are not healthy, but asking them to look at some things that they can be grateful for, so that they're not depressed in the hospital setting.
Uh-huh. Does it work? I mean, when people are feeling down, can they start to feel different than down just by trying to feel different than down? Does it work?
Sometimes what I do is I tell them that you can be grateful that you are in a nice place where you are getting the right treatment, and there is a hope that you will feel better. But it doesn't work all the time, but especially for anxiety and depression, I heard that it really
It's
helps.
definitely a fact. Let me just respond. Something that I learned from, I learned from Brajabihari, because when Brajabihari was still living in India, he shared with me, that one of the things that he did from time to time was he was invited to corporate places to speak on stress management in corporate places. Well, he was still in India before he came here doing what he's doing now. And so he had a little presentation on Stress Management 101. And one of the things that those in the profession of stress management say, it goes like this: life throws rocks at you and it hurts. So there's the rock and there's the hurt, and then wherever the rock came from, someone threw it, or however it came to you. So there's three things. Then the stress management principle is, rather than getting in a reactive mode, which itself is stress, take the rock, toss it in the air a few times, and consider, what are my options? And one of the options can be this one, which is, what are some things that I can do now, whatever the circumstances, that the rock and the hurt, that give me energy and vitality? And let me do some of that. That's an option. Or just responding to that idea. I learned this from physical therapy. The physical therapist, after this and that and the other thing, and okay, so what is it that you want? It was looking forward to something. He said, well, I had a knee problem. And I said, well, I don't want to walk up the stairs like an old man anymore. I want to be normal. He said, okay, good. What else? What else? And I said, let me think about it. Because she kept asking. So I came back. Anyway, I found that when you do something looking forward to something, that next time I came in, I said, I'm going to India. And she said, oh, really? I have a friend going to India. Where are you going? A social lady. So I said, I'm going to Vrindavan. She said, really? Where's that? Said, it's not far from Delhi. Oh, she's going to Delhi. Where's the place? I'll tell her she can go to it. Said, Vrindavan is the place, Krishna's place. Oh, tell me about it. It's like she was making me look forward to. So I said, there's a mountain there, and I want to walk around the mountain. It's like a sacred place. I didn't say the name. And I want to be able to, I don't want to just get in a car and ride around this mountain. I want to walk, and it takes about 6 to 8 hours, depending on how fast you walk. I want to be able to walk around. She said, good, let's write it down. So then I found, by doing, 10 of those and 15 of those and 30 of those, was really boring. But I was thinking, I want to walk around Govardhan Hill. The effect was so much greater. So ask people, what is it you want when you get well? What is it you want to do? Talk to them about it and see if they can, feel good about, or what are the things that's one of the stress management principles. Looking forward to and do some of the things that give you energy, or this is another one, things that have come into your life. Was there a time in your life when you weren't feeling like this? Yeah. What was it like? Tell me what it was like. And so there's you're exploring the gratitude principle. That came from Ikshvaku. It's a devotee from, now lives in Mayapur, but he's from Peru, I think, and he's teaching counseling. But just, the mind getting into this depressive state, if you just think of darkness, it's just dark in all directions. It gets darker and darker. So where's there some light? But so it's not just a mind trick. It definitely the sense of spiritual connectivity brings a joy, and when that spiritual connectivity, having received things and wanting to return those things, even you're in a difficult situation, it brings joy. And it brings joy to those around you. Even when you're in a difficult situation. Wow, this person, you have a great opportunity to help people feel joy when they're going through suffering. That's nice. It's nice. Some people don't want to go there, but the people that are willing to go there, they'll heal better. Okay. What? Anyone else? Yeah.
There are times where I can express my gratitude by performing services.
Good.
But at the same time, my capacity to express is very limited. And also on top of that, I have health challenges. And it becomes quite difficult to extend myself more. So I have the desire to do more, but I feel limited because of my health issues.
I got it.
So what should I do?
Stay within your limits. Because you make your health worse if you don't. And you can express that not in a whining or seeking the pity of others or something, but just let them know. I wish I could do more. This is a reasonable expression of my gratitude. And if my health gets better, I certainly want to do more. Anyway, if it's sincere, that's the main thing. That's the main thing. And people may have it in this world. People have expectations, and when the expectations are not met, there's some frustration. So you can't help some people having expectations that aren't met, but you can live within your limitations. And people that know you and understand you have your limitations due to health and other reasons, then people that have other expectations, responsible for that. You're responsible for what you're responsible for. So the sincerity of expression of gratitude within your limits. You know, I'll say, for me, time. There are many things that I want to do to share and express, etc., but time limitation. Not so much health, but time. And so, you know, some persons may be expecting more, or may not be expecting anything, and I don't know what that is. Sometimes I have an idea, but often I don't. But I guess I have to. Then, when I'm doing what I'm doing, then I'm fully present. And if that's heart-touching, fantastic. And if it's not, at least I'm expressing to my capacity. You have something further? No? Okay. Mahamantra, you've got something, I can tell.
Maharaj, Saturday, Raghunandan Prabhu, myself and Manideep, we went for a street festival. And it was nice crowd, and everyone who chanted took a Bhagavad Gita.
Everyone?
Everyone.
How many?
Chanted, probably 58.
58, probably around 58.
That's
give or take a few.
And many other books too.
Nice.
But
where was that?
Arlington, just
Arlington.
Alexandria, Guru Maharaj.
What kind of a street fair was it? International food, fantastic.
So
I'm trying to encourage some people that are interested, like you're interested, anyway.
Yeah.
And find some events where they can go to, and this is a nice tip.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. So the reason everyone chanted so attentively, and I made them read the basic verses of Sankhya, and so everyone was able to relate to their situation, because everyone's life is affected.
Directly or indirectly.
Indirectly, yes. And like one lady was sharing, it's not directly for her, but her daughter lost her husband and all the 3 children within a matter of like 3-4 days to the COVID.
Really?
Yes. And
wow.
So what she asked me was amazing. So many people said meditation, but it's...
Speak into the microphone. You're talking with your hands.
Yeah,
the microphone is flying around the air.
So many people suggested meditation, but I couldn't understand what to meditate upon. But this mantra is giving me light, because I'm feeling lighthearted and I'm getting some hope. That's what was the... But her question was, how do I make my daughter move on, not get stuck here? Because you explained me those kids and her husband, they are still alive as souls, because they can't die. So how do I make her move on, was her question, Guru Maharaj.
You can't make anybody do anything. That's the answer.
So I just told her to share this practice and see what happens. But she gave me contact. I wanted to talk to her further. I wanted to help her a little. So this is giving me...
And we're all limited.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
But collectively, the limited can do something more than, alone what we can do. That's an important dynamic of sadhu sangha. If there's movement, fantastic. If there isn't movement, a resource that can be helpful is to have an exchange with somebody that was stuck but found a way to move forward. That's just a standard counseling resource. And there are people that were stuck and have learned they can move forward. They don't have to remain stuck. But some people, it takes time.
Yes.
And some people, there's everything, all variety out there. But that's another resource you can consider, depending upon when you contact this person, what kind of response you get back. And while doing these types of things, two cautions: don't own the problem, and don't minimize or don't become
Indifferent.
neglectful of your own, internal spiritual well-being, while extending and extending and extending. Make sure that you're taking care of your own internal spiritual well-being and overcoming, our own little things that are obstacles in spiritual progress for ourselves. You make nice spiritual progress, and then you're a better instrument to help whoever, whatever circumstance comes your way. I think I'm going to put one person in touch with you to take some suggestions from you how to search for good little, because I'm guessing it's not a big mega event. The Alexandria International Food Festival is not a big mega event compared to, some big mega events.
Yes.
It's, nice. And chanting is a way to get people into reading Bhagavad Gita, as opposed to just reading Bhagavad Gita and then anyone interested in chanting, come on over here, and then you don't find anybody over here.
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting approach. Meditation. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Looks like anything online? Do we have something online? Okay. You want to do the online ones?
First question is from Anisha. She
From
said,
who?
Anisha.
Okay.
She says, my question is, how can we make someone who is ungrateful grateful?
You can't. We just covered that. So you can encourage, you can be a role model, you can sing and dance, but you can't make anyone do anything.
Second question is from Amara Mataji. If one has deep gratitude towards someone, and sometimes there could be a situation where one does not understand them correctly, how can one resolve such situations, particularly when one respects them so much out of their gratitude?
Well, there's multiple choices. So my standard answer is it depends. But of the multiple choices, the ideal is you have such a relationship with the person that you can say, this is my perception, and I don't know if my perception matches reality, but I'm just sharing with you, this is my perception, and based on my perception, this is what I'm feeling. Can you help me, get clarity on this? Or, some other language, but, an open relationship where you're sharing your experience in your heart, and you're wide open for having a course correction, or having your understanding acknowledged, and who knows, like, for example, that person who you're thinking about or speaking about, they may have been going through the most terrible torment during that particular period of time, and they said or did something that was uncharacteristic of that person, and they were not even aware that they were doing that thing. And then you understand, you'll go, oh gosh, I had no idea that that's what you're going through. I'm really sorry that I perceived and felt the way that I perceived and felt. I just didn't know. But feedback is when there's a proper relationship. It's very helpful. Without expectations that, like, I'm right and they're wrong or something like that. Just invest in the relationship through some mutual understanding.
Mara Mataji, how are gratitude and faith related?
How are gratitude and faith related? They're brother and sister. They have the same father, Krishna. Go ahead.
Is it selfish to deny gifts and help from others because you find it burdensome to pay them back or show gratitude
Oh
back
yeah,
to them?
that's it. I mean, there. You may not accept gifts. That's possible. But generally speaking, if someone wants to give something, like here's two examples. Sometimes I've been to different places and people don't know that we don't eat chocolate, so they give chocolate. So I say, I can't take chocolate. Get out of here with that chocolate. You don't do that. Then thank you. Later you let them know we don't take chocolate, but you don't like push it in their face. So in the future, when you want to give something to a devotee, the same thing happens in China. They give tea. It's like a China thing. So I had to explain it to a couple of people. Find something else to show some gratitude to somebody besides that particular expression. Now, somebody may accept it, but they're not going to use it. So, they'll not be insulted because you offered them something they can't use. And there comes a problem. What do you do with the chocolate, and what do you do with the tea that somebody gave you? But that's a lesser problem. So you can be accepting of something just in the sense of the gift. Then, if there is the relationship with somebody that you're specifically saying where you feel burdened to give back, just let them know whatever it is that you need to let them know about your capacity to be reciprocal. Just some kind words can be sufficient in having received something. There's examples in our scriptures of persons like when Ramachandra was given a boat ride across the Ganges. Guha arranged for a boatman. There's some different parts to the story. But when they got to the other side, it's part of culture, of kings at least, when they receive some service, you give something. But he said, I have nothing. And so Sita had something. So Sita gave it to Ram to give to the boatman. And the boatman said, I don't need. Just having some opportunity to serve you is sufficient. More than sufficient. So let there be a loving exchange in between yourself and someone else when you wish to give you something, and whatever. You're not in a position to adequately reciprocate. So anyway, you have a loving exchange. That's what you can do. That's it. There's a hand in the back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a question about being ungrateful. If someone is ungrateful for some service you're doing for them, should you continue that service?
It depends. We had this discussion already. Yeah, and because who is the service for, anyways?
Like a close family member.
Okay, but ultimately the service is for Krishna. Ultimately, the service is for Krishna. Now, you may choose to continue that service or not, but bear in mind who is the recipient of that gesture of giving the gift. There's an immediate, point of contact, but ultimately it's the pleasure of Krishna. So you may choose to continue or not continue, but let it not be with a heart that's, I don't know, teaching lessons to the ungrateful person or something. It's just, it's maybe detrimental for them that you continue. And then, they have terms for this. I forget what the terms are, but you're assisting them in their dysfunctionality. So, I choose to not assist this dysfunctional behavior anymore because it's not wholesome for them. But not out of resentment or something like that. That's not, because then you're stuck. Don't stay stuck in their ungrateful mood. Don't go into that dark place. Think of Krishna, think what's going to be uplifting for them and for you. And you may reach a point where it's just like it's hurting you, so I'm going to pull back. And then you can start to feel guilty about, I pulled back and maybe I shouldn't have pulled back. And you do that thing for a while. So let it be based upon some stronger or elevating principle for them and for you, and ultimately Krishna will be pleased.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Up front, there's something.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. So, gratitude in my mind translates into some action.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So, for spiritual gifts that one has received, it is in following the instructions that we have received. But when I'm in the unsteady stage of bhakti, and there is unsteadiness in following the instructions received, then how can I tell if the gratitude I have in my heart is actually genuine? I have this doubt about myself whether my gratitude is genuine, because if I'm not able to follow sincerely or consistently.
I'll certify you're sincere. That's sufficient. Now, being unsteady doesn't mean one isn't sincere. Being unsteady means that there's some unwanted things in the heart, anarthas in the heart, and that's blocking sometimes and sometimes. That's unsteady. Sometimes and sometimes not. Sometimes and some. It's due to the obstacle. It's not due to the sincerity. Now, one could argue, well, if sincerity was stronger, I'd get through on the other side of that obstacle. But that's kind of like the doership thing. And sincerity is you're making an effort and you're depending upon Krishna for helping you, like a child to be picked up by mother and father. So, you're sincere. Unsteady in the execution because that's a stage of bhakti, but sincere. So stay with it. That's the sincerity. That's the display of sincerity. Over a long period of time, stay with it. Okay? Anything else? How are we doing with the microphone? Anyone else? I think we're done. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.